Hello, and welcome back to Learn the Bible in a Year for February 6th, 2026. You want to know something that's interesting about today? You know King David from the Bible, same guy that killed the giant Goliath? Well, February 6th today is actually his birthday. Do you believe that? And that fact is 100% not true at all, but you were going to believe me. Isn't that fun? Send this episode today to a friend that you think would also believe such a silly fact. Today, we're going to be reading Job chapter 38, 39, and chapter 40, verses 1 and 2. I'll explain why we're only doing the first two verses of chapter 40 a little bit later. Also, Matthew chapter 24, verses 32 through 51, and we're briefly jumping into Matthew 25, verses 1 through 13, and we're capping it off with Psalms chapter 18, verses 37 through 42. So let's jump now into the recap. So finally, we are in Job chapter 38, and this is when God actually shows up and starts speaking to Job. The reason why we are reading Job chapter 38 and 39 and just the first two verses of chapter 40 is that this concludes what God says when he shows up here in the story. Job will start talking in chapter 40, verse 3. But in any case, God shows up and he doesn't actually answer Job's question. Instead, he asks his own. Out of a storm is where God speaks, which is actually very, very common for God to do. He launches into this breathtaking interrogation, I guess, about creation. He says, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Who marked off its dimensions? Have you ever given orders to the morning? Have you journeyed to the springs of the sea? Have the gates of death been shown to you?" Then God walks Job through the cosmos. Can you control the constellations? Do you know the laws of the heavens? Can you set up dominion over the earth? Then he shifts to animals. Who provides food for the ravens? Do you know when the mountain goats give birth? Who let the wild donkey go free? Does the hawk fly by your wisdom, meaning Job's wisdom? Here's what God's doing. He's not explaining why Job suffered. He's not defending his own justice system. He's recalibrating Job's perspective. Because up until this point, Job has been demanding answers from God, acting like he deserves an explanation. But God's response is essentially, do you run the universe? Did you create the world? Do you understand how any of this works? It's actually not cruel, what God's saying here. It's just context. Job has been treating God like an equal who owes him an account. God's reminding him of the scale difference. You are a creature trying to understand the Creator's plan. You are finite trying to grasp the infinite. The questions aren't meant to humiliate Job, they're meant to realign his posture. God asks if the one who contends with the Almighty will correct him. Job's response? I am unworthy. I have nothing more to say. This is really the turning point of the book. Job doesn't get answers, but he gets God. And somehow, encountering God himself is more satisfying than getting explanations. His presence is actually better than the answers he desires. All right, moving now into Matthew chapter 24, verses 32 through 51, and then also jumping into Matthew 25, verses 1 through 13. Jesus shifts from describing end time events to tell his followers how to live in light of them. He gives a parable about a fig tree. When you see the leaves come out, you'll know summer is near. When you see these signs, you will know the end is near. Then he makes a statement that's been debated endlessly about this generation, I put that into quotes, not passing away until these things happen. Well, what generation exactly is Jesus talking about? The one that sees the signs, the disciples' generation? It actually depends on our interpretation of our view on Matthew 24. But here's what is crucial: no one knows the day or hour. Not the angels, not even the Son will while he is on the earth. Only the Father knows when Jesus is going to return. This is huge. Jesus himself didn't know the timing. So when people confidently predict exact dates for the end times, they're claiming to know something that Jesus himself didn't know. I don't think so. Jesus compares it to Noah's day. People were living normal lives, eating, drinking, marrying, until the flood came and took them all away. That's how it will be. Two people in a field, one is taken and one is left. Two grinding grain, same thing. What's the point? Keep watch, because you don't know when Jesus is coming. He tells a parable about a homeowner and a thief next. He says that if you knew when the thief was going to come, you would stay up and stop him. In the same way, you need to be ready, because the Son of Man, meaning himself, will come when you least expect. Then there's the parable of the servant put in charge while the master is away. In this parable, the faithful servant continued to do his job, but the wicked servant thinks that the master is delayed, and he starts abusing the other servants and partying, and he gets caught when the master returns unexpectedly. And jumping into chapter 25, Jesus tells another parable about 10 bridesmaids. In ancient Jewish weddings, bridesmaids were often assigned to wait for the groom and then accompany the groom to the feast. So in the parable, 5 are wise and they bring extra oil for their lamps while they're waiting for the groom, and 5 are foolish and do not. The bridegroom, in fact, is delayed, so then they fall asleep, and then at midnight he arrives. The foolish ones realize their lamps are going to go out and need to run to buy more oil. While they're gone, the bridegroom arrives, and those who are ready go in. The door shuts. The foolish ones come back and knock, but the bridegroom say that he doesn't know them. So the main point of all of these parables are the same. Jesus is coming back. We don't know when. So we need to live a life where we are ready for him to return. Don't assume that we've got plenty of time to get my life in order because he's coming back far in the future. Be faithful now, stay alert. The worst thing isn't being caught by surprise, it's being caught unfaithful. It's about a lifestyle of readiness and not just being on high alert for these so-called signs, because nobody knows when he's coming back. All right, finally, we read Psalms chapter 18, verses 37 through 42. David describes pursuing his enemies with God's help. He chases them down and doesn't turn back until they are destroyed. He crushes them so they cannot rise. God arms him with strength for battle and makes his enemies bow down. They cry for help, but no one saves them. They even cry to the Lord, but he doesn't answer. David crushes them and empties them out. This might sound kind of like a harsh story, but remember the context. David's talking about enemies who want to kill him, destroy God's anointed king, and wipe out God's people. They aren't personal vendettas of David's necessarily. They are battles over God's purpose for the world. The point is that when you are aligned with God's purpose and trusting in him, you're not fighting alone. God's strength becomes your strength. David's not boasting about his own abilities, certainly not. He is testifying that God has empowered him to do what is otherwise not humanly possible. Alrighty, let's hear from our sponsor right quick. Our sponsor is Covenant Security Equipment, which is a Christian-owned company that partners with building contractors who build with safety in mind. They sell bullet-resistant windows, secure transaction systems, drive-through installations, and much, much more. Go to covenantsecurityequipment.com to find out all the things that they sell. Go ahead and go to that website and support our sponsor. I think that would be really great. And also, don't forget to pick up a copy of the Learn the Bible in a Year workbook. I did write this book, and I wrote it just for you who follow the podcast. The book has additional questions and fun facts about our daily readings, just like what we read today. The digital version is 100% for free. You can also pick up the paperback version if that's what you prefer. The link to both of those versions is available in the show notes. And as for my main takeaway from today's reading, I really liked Job's interaction with God. Now, the book of Job, I'll be honest with you, is kind of a tough book for me to read because over 30 chapters of it is just a long, sustained argument between Job and his so-called friends, going back and forth on who's actually right. But I love when God actually comes into the story. He sets matters straight, and he actually doesn't answer Job's question. He just shares with Job who he is. That's a really big takeaway for me. Sometimes I have questions and I want answers, and it's hard for me to actually rest in God and believe him for who he is, not for the answers that he provides to me. Really powerful there. Alrighty, well, that's the end of today's episode, and I will see all of you cool cats again tomorrow.